Thank you. Thank you for coming. It is good to see everyone's faces. I know this has been a time where we've been practicing isolation and physical distancing, and seeing the death of someone in police custody and knowing of so many other deaths and so much other suffering and seeing things in the news has made it even harder. So I'm grateful to all of you you're taking this time tonight to be gathered, to let us see each other's faces, to see the sorrow, the anguish, but also perhaps the hope, just to be together as we are here to remember a person who's died, but also to remember a lot of other suffering. This is not an easy time. This is a time where we enter into pain, we enter into remembrance and sorrow. So thank you all for coming. We will have time for silent remembrance, and we will see the clips of the memorial service for George Floyd. As you may know, he was held down and choked for 8 minutes, 46 seconds. And so that's a long time. And that's a time where we'll be silent. On the screen, you will see the broadcast from his memorial service and the way in which others are gathered. So I invite you as we spend that time together, a long silent time, to enter into that awful experience that he had and that so many others have had. So now let's have this time together. Let's be with one another, but also with all those who mourn and grieve. It's a very difficult 8 minutes, 46 seconds for us. Very painful 8 minutes, 46 seconds for the country. Even worse, 8 minutes, 46 seconds for George Floyd. Thank you for entering into that silence, for honoring him, remembering him. In a moment, President Butler is going to share some thoughts about him that he'd like to remember. We'll have some other people speaking today. If you would like to participate by chatting in the group chat, please do so. We do have moderators working on that to make sure that the speech is appropriate. If you'd also like, if you're participating via YouTube and have joined the YouTube link, please do join in the YouTube channel as well and commit to offer your thoughts, reflections there. So I have two ways for you to share your thoughts, both in the text box. If you would like to say some words after those who will be speaking, use the raise your hand feature in Zoom, and we'll let people have that chance to speak just in the order that they raise their hands. So thank you for coming. It's time now just to share thoughts and reflection. And thank you, President Butler.
Thank you, Reverend Keck, and you're absolutely right. That was a very moving way to start this service. I want to thank everyone for being here, and really a special thanks to all the organizers. I know we have a number of students involved in pulling this together, as well as some of our staff, and so thank you very much. I just want to say a few words from my own perspective. You know, Mr. George Floyd was more than a headline. He was more than a symbol and more than a cause. There were 46 years of life that came before those last horrible minutes captured on video. Yesterday on my way into work, I heard his former teacher read from an essay he wrote way back in the second grade on who he wanted to be when he grew up. And it was quite moving to hear the words written 38 years ago by a young 8-year-old speaking of his ambition to bring justice to the world when he grew up. His life should not have ended when and how it did. He was brutally killed, leaving us all heartbroken for his family, outraged at the brutality of the act that we saw, and as an institution, wanting to learn from and leverage this as a teachable moment for change, to look inward at our own behavior, to make sure the next generation never has to witness an act like this again. Mr. Floyd had no reason to believe his life would be a catalyst for international shock, outrage, and sorrow. His life mattered. How we honor that life going forward matters. Thank you, Reverend Keck.
Thank you, President Butler. And thank you, everyone who's here today. And I do invite you, as we're listening, to scroll through and see the different faces that are present or just the names. It is about being together. So thank you, President Butler, and thank you for everyone for being here. Like now, ask Ronnie Mack to share some of his thoughts.
Thanks, Reverend Keck. How you doing? I'm Ronnie Mack. Honestly, I don't have fancy words like the President Butler does, but I'm just speak from the heart. It's already been a trying time for us with the coronavirus, now with George Floyd, others like Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and other people who have lost their life in regards to engagement with the police. When I first heard it, being an African-American man from Atlanta, Georgia, I kind of was numb at first, because in our community, we hear about this stuff quite often and quite frequently. But I will say in recent days and recent weeks, the outpouring and the love and connection I've seen from others kind of gives me hope for the future of how we can kind of continue to connect and continue to move forward. It's sad that we had to come together like this based on the death of George Floyd. But I just pray that we continue to come together, continue to connect, and just look at this as a challenge. Like, don't let this issue fall to the wayside. Let's continue to connect from people of African-American descent or African diaspora. I know it hurts. I know that many of you are struggling. A couple of challenges I have: talk to your elders. Many of them have seen days like this. Many of them have suffered through days like this, but many of them have strived through these days. Talk to your elders, reconnect with your old generations. If you don't have any grandparents or parents, find some. I'll talk to you, but connect with generations because they've seen these days, and like we can connect and unite to get through these. And don't be afraid to have conversations. Don't be afraid to have difficult conversations to create understanding and education and love. And for those who may not be of my same background, I'm looking to build bonds. And I think many of us are looking to build bonds because we want to create change where everybody can feel safe, where everybody can feel supported. So if you can, it's a difficult conversation, but just be willing to listen. Be willing to listen, be willing to hear, be willing to empathize and sympathize with the feelings of others, and just be willing to kind of learn from where that goes and see where it takes us. But I just pray that we continue to come together. I pray that we utilize this to create safe environments, because this is not a movement to be anti-police, to be anti-anything. It's just really to keep people safe and create accountability and a safe environment for all of us. And I just pray that we continue to keep that in focus. And if you need love and support or a conversation, feel free to reach out to myself. And I'm pretty sure people on this panel will do the same thing.
Thank you, Ronnie. Thank you very much. And as we mentioned, we have students who've been involved in this and thinking about this and have been working on these kinds of issues and developing response for a while now. I'd like to ask Jamaria Richardson if you could share a few words, please.
All right, so as we come together to remember the life of Mr. George Floyd and his brutal murder, we also need to address the racially motivated injustices that plague the Black community and America as a whole. The murder of Mr. Floyd was caused by racial prejudices about Black people that have been funneled into our environment to the point where it's in the air we breathe. We also need to recognize that this is not only the only instance of this racially fueled cruelty. We need to also remember Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, Amir Rice, Trayvon Martin, Oscar Grant, Eric Gardner, Philando Castile, Samuel Du Bois, Sandra Bland, Walter Scott, Therese Crutcher, Stephen Day, Cynthia Fields, Jamar Clark, Terry Rice, and many, many more. These people are victims of racial injustices that happen in America, and that result in losing their lives. Everyone in the Black community has experienced racism, both off and on campus, and this needs to stop and must stop. As a university, we need to not only talk about diversity, but actually practice it on our campus. This is a task that will not be easy, since many believe that standing with the Black community means ignoring everyone else, but it is possible. We as a Black community are tired of living every day in fear that it might be our last just because of the color of our skin is considered a threat. We are tired of living every day in fear that our family and friends will be the next Black person being murdered by the people who swore to protect and serve us. We live in constant fear that losing our lives simply because we were born Black, and we are tired. The experience of a Black person is not one that everyone can understand, and every Black person's experience in America is not the same. But I know for a fact that one thing we are tired of is being viewed as less because we have different skin color than the next person. This color we wear proudly cannot be taken off when we get home, and we cannot put it away when we are out in public. It is not our fault that we are viewed this way by so many. No one Black person can speak on the feelings of all Black people. So I encourage you to educate yourself and listen when your Black friends speak on their racist experience. Don't discredit them. Do not tell them that they are overthinking it. Do not tell them that it is probably nothing. Listen to them, and please use your privilege to bring attention and to fight the issue with us. Mr. Floyd, who was a gentle giant, security officer, former college athlete, father, son, and protector, had his life extinguished due to racism. And to his murderers, his life did not matter because of the unwarranted hatred. And all lives won't matter until Black lives do too.
Thank you, Jamaria. Thank you so much. Not easy words to say, but thank you for sharing them with us. And Aaron Harris, can we ask you to share your thoughts as well at this time?
Hey, everybody. I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today. Thank you for allowing, for holding this and all the leadership showing their support. It's a really big deal for us as African Americans to have something like this and to know we have the support of the leadership of our school, especially with some of the things I've been reading lately from certain hateful people. Don't show the masses. It's just usually the hate that usually shows. And it's great that right now that the love is actually coming out and demonstrating that we are all able to come together on this one issue as of right now. I'm somebody who typically believes in the rule of law, and I think so far it's been unfairly applied to African Americans. And I can understand both sides of an argument like this, usually. I have a dad who was in the Air Force. He deployed many times, and I didn't always know that he would come home or not. So I can understand the families of law enforcement. I have a cousin who's in law enforcement, and he's actually in the midst of dealing with this right now. Some of the violence that has come, that is trying to show out. And it's usually, as I would say, it's the devil trying to take our eyes away from what the Lord is trying to show us right now. And I've had a brother who's wrongly profiled by police. And it's not good to see that is the system that we live in. And that's why we're out here protesting. And I want everybody to remember the real reason why the protests are around. And it's to change a system that has been so unfair. I applaud everybody to just continue to show the sympathy for not only George Floyd and his family, but for the protesters who are out there doing what some of us can't, or, and demonstrating the love and showing out to try to make change. I want to thank everybody again for giving me the opportunity to speak today, and I thank you guys for putting this on.
Thank you, Aaron. As a person of faith, I appreciate your spiritual framing of where we are, and appreciate, as all of us as people who have our worldviews, our beliefs, our faiths, a time where things get tested. I appreciate our bringing our best selves and trying to figure out how to be our best selves together. So thank you. As we said, there are two ways if you'd like to share your thoughts. Please do use the Zoom group chat and type anything you would like there. If you would like to share your thoughts through the spoken word, use the raise your hand feature, and we'll introduce those folks, and as they just in the order in which the hands are raised. So Sean, I think you're all set for that, right?
Yes, and if you have a text chat that you want to share, please utilize the option to send that to the co-hosts, to either Amy Deal or Nagar Afshar. I'll be working the hand raising, and they'll be working the text from here on out. Okay, Genesis, you should be unmuted now. Go ahead.
Hi, everybody. My name is Genesis, and this upcoming fall, I will be a sophomore at Riddle. I did have a great time for my first semester and half of second semester that I was able to experience, but I think it's really, really important to come on here and to speak about these things, which is why I'm here. I am kind of nervous, so please excuse me for that. But I hope that all of you are here for more than just to show face. It does look like there are a lot of teachers or faculty members that are here, which is good, as you should be. But I hope you're here not just because you feel like you should be. I hope you're here because you want to learn something. I even experienced racism from a boy who lived across from me in my dorm. I stayed in Doolittle. And it's kind of ridiculous, honestly. I feel like, these things, being part of the Black community, being a mixed girl in the Black community, these are things that I faced all the time. I see these things growing up all the time. I'm from Texas. I grew up in Florida. I see these things all the time. My stepdad is in the Air Force 20 years. We are a pretty wealthy family. I would say he drives a Mercedes truck, things like that. But regardless of that, please excuse my language, but he was called a nigger 2 weeks ago. So it's not a thing of economic class or whatever. It doesn't matter where you are. If you are Black, you will face discrimination. And I think that's ridiculous. And me as a student, I should not come to Riddle and be a student on campus and face discrimination. And I also think it's kind of ridiculous that only now is when people want to say something or people want to realize that this is a reality. This has been a reality for Black people, mixed people, just people of color in general. This has been a reality. And it's a shame that protests, riots in all 50 states have to happen for corporations and universities alike to then be like, oh, we need diversity, oh, we need inclusion, things like that. I do appreciate the efforts as a school that Riddle is making, and as you should, everybody should, but it should be more than something happening and, oh, we should say something because this is happening. This should be the standard all the time. Black students and students of color should always be reached out to, because you can think that you're treating your students equally, but the reality is, even if you're treating everybody equally, students of color are at a disadvantage already because we start out at a disadvantage. So I hope, this means something. I would like to see more inclusion. I don't know if Malik is here. I don't think he is, but I know you guys know Malik Mobile. I was speaking to him about this the other day. Me and him are good friends. Things like an African-American studies class, we were talking about that. It's like things like that that should already be introduced. I don't know. I just want to see Riddle do better, honestly, because I shouldn't have to be here and be reporting students for racism, because I already have. Within the past couple of days, I've seen a student post that Black Lives Matter is the same as communism and Nazis. And this is somebody that also lived in the same hall as me, somebody I was in Air Force ROTC with. And it's like, this situation is just bringing out a bunch of undercover racism from students. I hope I do not see it from faculty, but it's just the reality. So I hope that you guys hear me and heard me. Black teachers, white teachers, all of you guys need to be doing better and realizing that Black students and students of color just start out at a disadvantage. And we need your help to succeed, because even me financially, I don't know if I'll be able to come back to Riddle because of finances, but I want to be here. So things like just support in a matter of like finances, scholarships, things like that should also be more readily available to students of color. But thank you guys for hearing me. I'm done.
Thank you for sharing, Genesis. Got one more hand raised here.
Is that for me?
It's you, Dean Gaines.
Yep. I think some of you may recognize me. I'm Dean Gaines. I'm the Dean of College of Arts and Sciences at Daytona Beach. Excuse my hair and inappropriate dress. You usually see me in my better clothes, but I think this is what we should all be ourselves. I just want to share a story that I have. Many of you know I grew up in New York City. I grew up there in the 70s in Queens when we had busing in from different neighborhoods. So I saw a lot. But I want to share one story with you that is a little bit more recent in my adulthood. So I went back home to visit my mother in Queens. And my son is 16 now. This was when he was maybe about 6 years old, maybe 7. And we're on the subway. It was after 9/11, and things always got real tense, and we got stopped because there was a security check on the subway. And he's looking around, and he says really loud, everybody's kind of tense, and he says, "Mom, I am the only blonde person on this subway." And everybody sort of stops and looks at him, and they just said, "Yep, you are," and everybody kind of laughed about it. So that's one story. So about, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 years later, this was maybe about 4 or 5 years ago, and we're visiting my mom again, and we're on the subway, and we leave this time, we're leaving the subway, and there's two people fighting in, having an argument in the subway station, and it was an African-American man and woman, and the man was yelling, really violently. He wasn't touching the woman yet, but he was really, everybody was kind of tense and scared about what was going to happen. And there was a police officer watching this all happening. And, but he wasn't doing anything. And everybody was kind of scared. He was interfaced. And so we kept walking. And so my son said, why didn't the police officer do anything, Mom? I said, that's a great question. I said, what do you think would have happened if that black man would have been doing that to me? And he said, I don't know. I said, he would have stopped him. And that's what white privilege is, Peter. And you need to understand that. And that's what you need to be aware of your entire life and what you need to fight against. And that's really all I want to share with you. I want my colleagues to understand this. It happens every single day. And it's not fair. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for sharing. Leroy, you are unmuted now.
Hi, how's everyone doing? Thanks for the opportunity. So you may be wondering why I just have Leroy on the screen. Normally when I present myself professionally, I'll put Leroy Long III, PhD, or maybe Dr. Long. But to be honest, in situations like this, I feel like I would just be Leroy. If I were pulled over by the police, my title doesn't matter, all of the years I spent, and I have a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from Wright State University. I have a master's degree in mechanical engineering from The Ohio State University. I have a PhD in STEM education with a focus on engineering education from The Ohio State University. I'm now 5 years into my career as an assistant professor. But again, I don't think they would see me as Dr. Long or any of that would matter in that moment in time. Me being the third, although it looks good on paper, in terms of family support, parental support, that may not matter in that instance in time. And then just imagine if I am, just more relaxed. We live in sunny Florida. If I had, like a fitted cap on, which a lot of people do, is very popular, across America. Baseball is considered America's pastime for a number of years. How does that make me? Appears to the cop. I am young in age. I'm in my 30s, but I look even younger. Many people mistake me for a college student, which I actually think is pretty flattering and a blessing, to be honest. But in an interaction with a police officer, what does that do for me? I'm originally from Dayton, Ohio, which is a very segregated city. It's less than an hour away from Cincinnati, Ohio, which if you're familiar with Cincinnati, Ohio, it was the border between being free and a slave or enslaved. But I should say to you, I've never really felt free in this country. I feel under attack. I actually almost avoided this platform because of that reason. So Reverend Keck, he knows from a previous presentation I gave, and President Butler was there as well, that a motto I live by is lead with love and follow with justice. But I feel like there isn't really a lot of love for Black people, if any. I feel like we're seen as a threat, and because we're seen as a threat, we're placed under a constant state of threat. If you're not familiar with the history of this country, it all started in St. Augustine, which is less than an hour away from Daytona. And to know that for over 400 years, my people have been oppressed. And by my people, I mean Black people, just for the color of our skin. We are viewed as property. We were viewed as less than human. We've been barred from even perceivably the most progressive states in cities like Portland, Oregon. We've been beaten, traumatized, murdered for nothing, for no reason besides our skin color. This event is even traumatic to have to relive it, which is part of the reason why I agree with Ronnie. I was numb when I first heard it. I'm like, oh, another one. And then when you read the details, you start to get sad and cry. And then you get angry. And then you feel helpless. Because as a Black man, I didn't create racism. As a Black man, I do not maintain racism. And as a Black man, I don't feel like it's my responsibility to end it. But one challenge I will say, and this is not me going against Ronnie, but I do think we need some anti things. And one paper I'm trying to push forward now, a guest editorial for my top journal, is to promote policies about anti-racism. I think for too long we talk about race, sometimes what it means to be black and white, but we're not talking about racism. And the fact that racism occurs every day, it occurs at an institutional level, it occurs at a systematic level. It's really just embedded in all walks of life. And then we've got to a point where people also have colorblind racism, where they think racism no longer exists. And that really happened up until the recent presidency, in which now it seems to be more in people's face. There are more white supremacists who are coming forward. There are more conversations about white privilege and white male privilege on top of just white privilege. And again, I feel under threat. I feel like by even being on this platform, it may be less likely I'm going to get tenure. And I believe that I potentially am the first Black person to have the opportunity to receive tenure in the College of Engineering. This is over 100 faculty members. I will probably be one of the first to get tenure on the entire campus. We have over 400 faculty members, and this is 2020. And so again, even by being on this platform, I feel under attack. My heart was beating beforehand and racing. I was thinking, when should I speak, if I should speak? But then I realized that none of it matters, because I could say all of this, I could not get tenure. I could get tenure and I could get in the car one day, or I could be walking down the street one day and I can be murdered just for the color of my skin. And then if you look at situations like with Breonna Taylor in Louisville, what if for some reason the police believed that I was dealing drugs? Maybe because my neighbors wondered how I could afford my multi-$100,000 home in a gated community. And the police were able to just break in without even acknowledging or asking to come in. They came in, did just like they did with Breonna Taylor. I'm in bed with my wife, and maybe if I'm armed or she's armed, or we get startled and move the wrong way or act the wrong way, our lives are taken in our sleep. Or in a moment of first waking up and not even realizing what's going on. And these same things happen to the Black Panther Party, who had PhDs just like me and were considered radicals for just standing up for Black people and wanting to arm themselves. These same things happen to Dr. King, who, like me, I don't tell many people this, but I'm actually a minister. I'm a youth minister, but I feel like my overall calling is the minister. And I feel like I'm strategically placed at Embry-Riddle to shed light to darkness. And the greatest darkness in this country is the sin of racism, which has been embedded in it from its very foundation. And today, I was actually touched when I went to a vigil this morning with white and Black pastors, and I realized that in over 30 years of my life, I have never publicly or one-on-one heard a white man be remorseful for and repent for the sin of racism and for it being embedded in the entire culture and structure of this university. And it's just so sad, because right before I got on here, I was feeling good. I had a great day. And then I get an email from an unnamed colleague. And I had asked for feedback on my tenure package, since I could potentially go up in November. And what this person does, he does not acknowledge any accomplishments, all the obstacles I've had to overcome. My wife was super ill my first couple of years. My father-in-law has passed away from terminal cancer. I've lost 3 aunts. My grandmother passed away the summer before I came here. This is what it means to be Black in America. These are the realities of being Black in America. We're not just statistics, we actually live it in terms of our quality of life, our length of life, right? And then I get an email attacking me, pretty much saying, oh, we find there's a gap in your tenure package in terms of the amount of grant money that you brought in. Now, the one grant I do have is from the NCAA, and I'm doing sports and STEM research. So what other institution could you go to do sports and STEM research besides the NCAA? It's the most prestigious platform I have. And because it's only $50,000, where the NSF may award multiple hundred thousands of dollars, this is a critique. And what he called, I believe, a gaping hole in my package. This was also very, very competitive, very competitive. But again, he doesn't see how many attempts I'm putting up with grant applications every year, and how they're getting rejected, and how if I push for diversity or equity or inclusion, I'm being questioned, I'm being scrutinized. And I'm always viewed from a deficit lens, right? Why am I not praised? When I'm going through tenure, why am I not given an award for doing service at the level of probably associate or full professor, for carrying the weight of not only my lived experience as a Black man, but the lived experience for all my Black students? Because I step up, I reach out to them, you can ask them, right? And that's not rewarded. I'm just questioned, I'm critiqued, I'm threatened. but I'll tell you my life matters. And whether I get tenure or not, it still matters. And that's not a merit marker for me because we don't really live in a meritocracy in the first place. We live in a society that discriminates just based on the color of one's skin. We live in a society that also discriminates based on gender. But I can tell you that gender is not the same because white privilege and being white affords you more opportunities than even gender, right? Being a member of the LGBTQ community, and this is no offense to anyone in that category, I'm not trying to do that, but it's not the same as being Black. If you are international, it's not the same. If you are first generation, if you are low income, it is not the same. And I did not choose to be Black. I love being Black, but I did not choose it. And I didn't pre-write this. I didn't expect to get emotional. I do not like getting emotional in front of people, especially in front of predominantly white audiences, to be honest with you. But that's really all I have to say. So I don't know what policies you're willing to change in terms of promotion and tenure. I don't know what safeguards you're willing to do so I don't feel like I could get shot or killed even in the classroom or in the parking lot. I don't know. And I don't see a lot of people coming to me asking. I appreciate those who have, but you have no idea. You have no idea.
Leroy, thank you so much for sharing that. That vulnerability was extremely meaningful. Thank you. I've got a couple of other hands raised here. I'll do them in order that they were raised. Clicking, there we go. Go ahead.
And sorry about my name. I was screwing around with a Zoom call and didn't know how to change it back. But watching the news for the past few weeks, I couldn't sit idly by and watch as people's lives were damaged senselessly from all the understandable emotion going through the country right now. But right now I'm trying to put together a list of businesses and lives affected by this that can be helped with GoFundMes and other things so that we can start healing as a country and rebuilding in the names of the lives lost instead of stoking more division than there needs to be. So if anyone knows of any businesses in their community or any people that have been affected by crimes committed against them in the wake of this tragedy, please send any information to codbass.business, that's BUSYNESS @gmail.com. I'm going to be compiling a bunch of names and contacting and reaching out people to see in what ways we can help, to see in what ways we can help rebuild their businesses and help restart their lives and start healing communities instead of repeating histories that don't need to be repeated. That's all I have. Thank you.
Go ahead, Katie.
Thank you, Sean. I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge Leroy and Genesis for your vulnerability and for your authenticity. And I think it is important that you hear white folks say, Black Lives Matter. We hear you, we see you, we stand with you, and we have done a very poor job of showing that. So we might have been saying it for a long time, and I want to apologize for that. I think it's important for the white folks on the call for us to acknowledge we have a lot of work to do. It is our job to dismantle these systems of oppression. So I just want to acknowledge that and speak that, and thank you both for uplifting the importance of that. And thank you for your emotional labor. I think that it is a brave space for you to create here, and I appreciate that, so thank you.
So I did just want to say something else. What Dr. Long said in this conversation that I had with this student, the one who lived down the hall from me, he posted this thing on his Snapchat, what I mentioned earlier, saying how Black Lives Matter is the same as communists and Nazis and just a bunch of BS. And I considered this boy to be my friend. So it kind of just like, you know, my heart started beating fast, my blood started boiling, because I'm just like, how could you say this? And then of course, at the end of his thing, he said, well, I'm not racist, so don't swipe up and call me racist. But in a conversation I had with him, he's just throwing all sorts of FBI statistics at me saying, well, if 50% of a race is criminals, then they're more likely to get killed by police. And that he grew up in the hood, so he knows, and that it's not a race thing, it's an economic class thing. And just like these are all things that this boy has said to me. This is somebody I consider to be my friend and my wingman, because we were both in ROTC together. And I was just like bewildered that there are people that just think this. And honestly, it's not enough to not see color. I've had people tell me like, oh, I don't see anybody in color, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, okay, I understand that in terms of you don't see color because you're giving everybody a fair chance and you want to treat them equally. Sure, great. But the fact of the matter is, the world is in color. And if you don't see color, then you don't see the injustices that people of color face. And I have a friend of mine, his name is Ricky. He is Korean, he's also a wingman of mine. And he came to me separately and he was asking me, he was trying to learn. And after I spoke to him about things such as systematic racism, because he didn't know what that was. I spoke to him about colorism within the Black community because he didn't know what that was. I spoke to him about a number of things and educated him, and it inspired him to speak out. So I think especially, not even me just being a person of color, but if you really are somebody that stands with the Black Lives Matter movement, you should be educating other people, especially people that are like you or not like you, because it can inspire them to speak out and inspire them to speak to people like them who aren't people of color, and then they can educate other people and just stop ignorance altogether. But thank you.
So again, if anyone would like to speak verbally, feel free to use the raise your hand feature. I'll unmute you. I'm still going through some of the messages that are coming through text, and I'll repost the email address that was shared a few minutes ago verbally. But we'll give it another few moments, see if anyone else would like to say anything.
I don't know how to use the raise your hand feature, but I figured out how to unmute myself. I just wanted to thank Leroy and everybody else who's spoken from the heart. I'm not great at these type of conversations, and I'm not great at not showing emotion. Leroy's vulnerability tears me up that he has to express this to get through some of our thick skulls, the importance of what he's saying. One of the things that I want, and I don't want to speak on behalf of every faculty or staff member that's here, but one of the things I know about the people in this group is that we devote our lives to our students because we love you and because we believe in your future. And the mere thought that we might have to say your name because of this happening to somebody in this tears me up. And while I'm not 100% certain how to use the privilege that I have, that I don't deserve, I've always known one thing, and that's that the students have this great ability to teach me if I'll just listen. So I'm here starting back on campus in Summer B and ready to learn from the students, because I know that you have, if given the opportunity, you have a voice that matters and that can teach each and every one of us. And whatever privilege I have, both real and that is perceived, I'll figure out how to use it to help you. I will figure out a way to be an advocate in any way I can possibly be. And this I promise you. Thanks so much for teaching. Thanks so much for being your authentic selves.
Hi, everyone. You don't know me, but that's okay. I'm hoping that after today, we will get to know each other.
I don't know that you've unmuted me.
I don't know where to start. I'm embarrassed. I'm hurt. I'm angry. I'm disappointed. Most importantly, I think I am sorry. I am sorry that there are injustices. I'm sorry that you suffer through these injustices. And I want you to know that I am personally sorry. If anybody, anywhere, needs anything, come and see me on campus. Call me at home, send me an email, come to my front door. Thank you so much for doing this. Thank you so much for sharing, everybody.
Thank you so much for the vulnerability. It was so moving, and it makes me realize how much I don't know. And that's really embarrassing. And white people shouldn't need Black people to teach us about humanity. But that's where we are right now. And we just we need to learn.
And thank you for teaching us. Thank you.
Karabo.
Hi. I just wanted to speak on behalf of like the international students. I'm from South Africa, and we've heard, a lot of us have been in support of the Black Lives Matter movement, and I've had a lot of people come at me saying stuff like, what do you know? You're from Africa. You don't get affected by these things. You don't get it. You don't understand. And that's where the whole ignorance is, because it's not just an American problem. It's a worldwide problem. Wherever you go in the world, everybody at some point, if you're not white, you've experienced some sort of racism. And I come from a country where we literally had our own civil rights movement, and we had to fight against white oppression. And many of you guys know who Nelson Mandela is. He was our leader. He's the one that got us through that. And it hurts, because it's like, we should be past this, but we're not. It's sad that we're living a reality that a lot of people say things like, oh, okay, no matter what we say, no matter what we do, racism is going to be a generational thing. Why is it that way? The other day on the BSA group chat, we're speaking to Jamara, and she's like, send in anything that you see that are racial posts from like students. And there's this kid that actually stays across me. He goes to Riddle as well. And he was posting like ignorant stuff like, why should we have Black Lives Matter? Why should we have Blackout Tuesday? If we're gonna have Blackout Tuesday, we should have Yellow Out Tuesday, like for the Asians as well, and White Out Tuesday for us too. And I'm just like, you don't get it. Like, I don't understand how you don't get it. And it made me so angry. But when you actually delve deeper into it, you realize that he's grown and it's his responsibility to know things, but it also stems from how he grew up. He can't think like that on his own. It's chances that he thinks the way he thinks is because he hears people in his own home saying the very same things. And you find that probably because his parents think that way, his grandparents look the same way, and it's just a domino effect. It's also unfortunate that we're in a situation where before I came in, my reality was I had to, when I was doing research to come to like the schools that I wanted to come to for the program that I want to do, I also had to look at things like, okay, what are the statistics? How many Black people are in the community? Like what kind of discriminations am I going to face? Because the thing, and it sucks that it has to be that way. And I remember my mom was like, are you sure about Florida? And I was like, yeah, I think I'd rather be in Florida than be like in the other places that like we had looked at. And she was just like, yeah, but it's the South. Like, you know, America has these stories of like the rednecks, the Ku Klux Klan, and all these things. And my response to her was like, Mom, I'll be fine. We've survived racism here. I'm sure I'll be fine at home, like at school. And that shouldn't be the reality. You know, like the fact that I got here and a former student said to me, just mind your business. Don't talk about, like, when it comes to politics, don't involve yourself. When it comes to like anything that's like spiritual, just don't involve yourself. Walk, mind your business. The other day, just a few weeks ago, we were in a car with a bunch of friends. We got stopped by the cops. It was so scary. Like my first instinct was, okay, I need to call my parents because if something happens, they need to know where their child was. The first thought that comes to me isn't, oh, okay, no, I'm African, so nothing's gonna happen. It's the fact that I'm Black, because when I walk, they don't hear my accent, they see my skin color. So you're not safe anywhere you are. There's several students that have faced discrimination on campus, but like so many of us don't even know where to go because it's like, okay, if we speak, are we even gonna be heard? It's a reality we face every day. Like, I don't care, like, support Trump all you want to support. But when it comes to discrimination, don't do that stuff. Because you don't see me coming to you and telling you that I disagree with who you choose politically. So why are you gonna come to me and then point out the fact that I'm Black and like slight comments like, oh, you're from Africa? Wow, your English is really good. Like, how long have you spoken it for? That's ignorance. Like, go get educated. And it's so disappointing because the way we see America from home, it's like it's this glamorous place, the land of dreams and opportunities, the land where people are actually, like, they know what they're doing. Like, you get this, America literally, like, my sister-in-law once said, when America coughs, the whole world gets sick. Because the whole world follows the trend of America. So we're seeing it as if like, okay, like, you know, like it's cool, like it's open, I can actually do what I want to do, but you come and that's not the reality here. It's so sad how a lot of people are so ignorant to the level that they are, and it doesn't make sense to me because we literally have technology at the tips of our fingers. Why is it that I know more about your history than you ever know any history of any other country in the world except for your own? When I was in school, we got taught everything. We got taught from the Chinese history, the European history, everything. Even the civil rights movement, I can tell you all the leaders that fought. But like when you come here, people act like they don't know anything. The fact that you think it's okay to comment, and you think it's a compliment to tell me that, oh, I speak English really well, that's ignorant because you don't choose to actually educate yourself and see like how education elsewhere in the world is. The fact that like you think it's okay for you to say things like, oh, so do you guys have phones? Like, what? And the thing is, like, you'll never ask me. You'll never ask my white South African friend, but you always ask me those questions. Some kid the other day said to my friend, oh, you white, how are you from Africa? Like, you know, and it's like, it doesn't make sense. Like, this fight is for everybody. And I think it's time that, I don't know how you're gonna do it, but I think faculty needs to come together and they need to create an environment where students can start feeling comfortable to start talking about issues. It's not that when we say Black Lives Matter, people need to realize that we're not just fighting for us. It's all, we understand all lives do matter, but at this point, the reason why we have to fight for our race is because we are beneath. We are seen as if there's a literal hierarchy. We are always at the bottom wherever you are in the world. Even at home, you'll find like the Indians are seen better above the Black people, and yet it's our land. We are the majority. We are 90% at home, but somehow we are still beneath the system. So this is not just an American issue, it's a worldwide issue. And I'm glad that these protests are happening. I don't know if you've seen the news, but every single state has fought. There's been about 75 countries, if not more, that have been behind this. And my home country, people are protesting just in support of this whole entire movement, because it's not just an American thing, it's a worldwide thing. And it's time people wake up and realize that this is not life and it's not fair. It is absolutely not fair at all. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. All right. Mateus, you should be unmuted now.
Hi everyone. Sorry, I obviously didn't prepare anything. I just wanted to, first of all, say Black Lives Matter. That should be extremely obvious, and the fact that everything that's happening is just really depressing to me. I know I'm not going to speak much because I can very easily pass for white. I'm from Brazil. People think I'm from Minnesota. When I'm there, I don't face any discrimination when I'm in the U.S. But I just want to say, just because as someone who comes from Brazil as well, I've heard like a lot of the same stuff that Karabo, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, please do correct me, said about, hey, don't talk about politics, don't talk about religion, just keep her mouth shut. You're going to Florida. I was extremely worried about studying in Florida. And yeah, sorry, it is very hard to talk right now. I'm not going to say much. I'm just going to comment again on what she said, that these are issues that are happening everywhere, where we have severe police brutality issues, and it's mostly systemic racism down here as well. And yeah, sorry, I don't really know what else more to say, just that I support you. If anyone ever needs my help for anything, I'm here, and if anyone just needs to talk, just like needs another student on campus to talk about these issues, I am here to talk to you. I put some links in the chat if anyone wants to donate to Black Lives Matter, because the website should have the links of a bunch of bail funds as well as resources you can donate to protesters and stuff like that. So anyone who wants to help, please do that. And thank you for your time. And thanks to everyone who has spoken out so far.
Thank you. All right, Evans, you're unmuted now.
Okay. I don't know if you can see me. I can't see myself. Oh, you
can see you. Yeah.
Okay. I just want to share a couple stories, and also one story, and touch on one thing that one of the other members mentioned. I'm also a little bit nervous too. Those who may not know me, I'm a veteran in the Navy. Still, this is my last year as we're extending my contract. The racism into our armed service, not personally, but I witnessed it in front of me, firsthand, watching it. There was a white guy who, actually in our department and division, let's say in the Navy, when you're on a ship, we all go a little crazy, we have a little bit of a different culture and things a little more relaxed, but he was dating a Black girl, so I guess maybe he felt he could say a couple of things that normally wouldn't we accept. But it was Martin Luther King's Day, and we were underway out to sea. And for whatever reason, we do crazy things. There was two Black people hitting each other with belts. And he walked by and said, something along the lines of, I guess I didn't have to come around, something, I can't remember exactly the words, but it was along the lines of, I didn't have to whip y'all whip yourselves. And in those kind of scenarios, we have ways we can handle that of chain of command, but it really depends on your command of how it gets dealt with. Typically, it's a zero tolerance. but it really depends on your chain of command. And it happens everywhere, and of course, that doesn't exclude the military. The second instance it wasn't necessarily racism, but it really caught my attention. This was on my second combat deployment around Indonesia. And one of the soldiers that we were with, I was on a security boat, and he asked me, how can I wear the uniform of a country that doesn't even respect me? And at that time, I couldn't answer his question. I just said, I don't know. And honestly, I can't answer that now. But I can say one thing that does help, which comes to the last point. It does help to listen. I have a senior chief. I just reassigned to an LCS unit, Squadron 2 out of Jacksonville here. And after one of our meetings, he asked us, we have any issues because of people coming in, people coming out, people getting reassigned. So any mobilization issues, any financial issues, we're going to talk to them. And so I showed him a picture that a friend of mine sent me, and it was like a split picture. Half of it on the left side had 9/11, the Twin Towers, and the American flag, and it said "Never Forget." And on the right side, it was the back side of a slave on his knees with whips and lashes on his back, and it said "Get over it." And I asked him what he think about it, and he said, "Let's talk." And again, I was a little bit surprised, but I was also grateful that I felt, even if we have issues outside of financial responsibility and other means about the military and drill, that there are people like him that may not look like me or have my similar kind of background that we can talk to. And it definitely helps take a little weight off our shoulders. Not walking around bundled up with frustration and anger about these issues. We have people that we can talk to. So having someone to talk to that's willing to listen definitely helps. And that's all I would say on that.
Thank you for sharing. All right, got one more.
Hi, my name is Janae Hawkins. I don't know if you all can see me. I actually am out with family right now, trying to, detach from the world and everything that's going on. If you see me around on campus, I'm actually really quiet. I keep to myself, but I always have a smile on my face. And that's what was told to me coming into school. I tell my family I got accepted into Embry-Riddle, and the first reaction is always, yeah, that's great. We're super proud of you. You got accepted to the school you want to get accepted to. But then there was the reality. There was the reality in, okay, well, you got accepted to Embry-Riddle. You do know that's a predominantly white institute, correct? And, yes, ma'am, yes, sir. And there's a conversation of not necessarily not being able to be myself, but I'm quiet on campus because I'm afraid that I will give the wrong perception to someone and all of a sudden my opportunity is taken. I am aware that we all have the same opportunities, and I'm not the school and giving the same opportunities to everyone else with the career fair and professors, but it's all about who you know and the first impressions that you make. And me being an African American, I'm always afraid of that opportunity being taken away from me because it took forever for me to even have the courage to dye my hair the way I did because of me thinking about the perception I was going to make on my professors, me thinking about the perception I was going to make on, not even just my professors, but my peers. I know this is a vigil for George Floyd, and my heart goes out to him and his family. But when I heard about him and Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud, my first reaction, and still is a little bit, was, man, again, like, okay, next. So I can only give you how I feel and how I feel in this situation. I don't want to be silent. I'm tired of trying to be perfect for a world that doesn't see me in the light of perfect. When I do more, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. When I do great, it's not seen as great in the eyes of others. You know, it's almost as if, well, you know, if I do something and let's say the female across the hall who is white does something, the same exact thing I did, I wouldn't get the recognition she has. And I don't know. It's hard to explain my experience in feeling the weight of just society and how that affects my career and how I'm trying to better myself and not fall into a statistic. I purposely don't play a sport at Embry-Riddle because I don't want someone to look at me as they've done other people and say, oh, you go to Embry-Riddle, what sport do you play? I want to be known that I go to Embry-Riddle because of my academics. I want to be known that I go to Embry-Riddle because I had the test scores. I was a straight A student in high school. I want to be known that I came to Embry-Riddle not because of what other people, the statistics behind it, but because of my excellence. And I'm tired of being silent because me being silent is just another face on campus. And honestly, for about, how long we've been on this Zoom call, about 30, 45 minutes that we've been on this call, I was in the mindset of, I'm just gonna show up and show my face to show that this problem is the problem to me. But I can't continue just to show up and show face because it's not changing anything. And I don't feel like people understand how hard it is to always have to be perfect, to always cannot make a mistake. And I'm even afraid to sometimes socialize with my peers because when they do wrong and they're doing something that they're not supposed to do, the first person that they look at is me. As an example of me being at Embry-Riddle, I went out to St. Augustine with some friends, and it was late at night. We were viewing Flagler College down there, and campus safety came and they looked at me and asked me, what are you doing out here? Meanwhile, I'm in a group of 6 people, and the other 5 people that were there were also Caucasian. They weren't looked at, it was me. I was asked that question, and I have never, ever, ever been so afraid in my life. And I laugh about it because that's how I was taught to handle my pain. You always put a smile on your face because your pain doesn't mean anything to others. And from the comments that we get from my peers, as from Genesis said, that I've seen on social media as well, from people that are, you know, that go to my school, that hits home, they obviously don't feel our pain and see where that pain is coming from. So I just felt like I had to speak out on my end to show that just because I smile doesn't mean I hurt, that I don't hurt. So thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to speak and let you know how I feel about the situation and, you know, my point of view on things.
Absolutely, and we appreciate you. We appreciate you doing so. I mean, it's very powerful. If one more said they would like to talk, Abby, you should be unmuted.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Abby, like Sean said, and I just wanted to add to the conversation something that I see as very, very important, and that I want to kind of task every one of you to do after this call is over. It's just kind of to reach out to those that have not been very vocal on the issue in either way, and to see how they're doing, see how they feel on this issue, to see what their thoughts are, and maybe you can kind of educate each other on it. I've kind of experienced this in the past few days I've posted a lot on social media because this is something I'm very passionate about. And I've noticed a lot of my other friends and some of my very close friends haven't been. And in my head at first, I was like, oh, wow, they're not posting. Like, they must not be a supporter. They must, you know, silence is violence kind of mindset. But then I tried to bring it up in our friend group chat, and I kind of got pushed down. The conversation was cut. So I found that very offensive because that's something I'm very passionate about. So that kind of made me think, kind of rethink like who my friends are, which is very sad, but it's true. And then, sorry. And then I posted on my story on Instagram and other social media platforms, reaching out, asking people to come talk to me, and if they haven't been vocal and they kind of want to express their feelings. And I actually got a lot of really amazing responses from students saying how they feel on the issue and why they haven't really been vocal about it on social media. And a lot of them have actually been doing a lot of things behind the scenes that we don't even see. So I think that's very important to kind of reach out to those that have not seemed to be vocal and see how they're doing and see what they've been doing to help. Thank you.
I kind of wanted to piggyback off of Abby, you know, seeing, you know, a lot of this movement is on social media because a lot of people can't go out and protest. And it's something to recognize that, you know, it's not the Black community's job to teach people about what's going on. For those of us who are not in the Black or Brown community, like, we need to take it upon ourselves and educate the people who are out there. And I mean, I've had people reply to my stories and be like, oh, well, that's like, just like ridiculous things, you know? And of course, initially I'm furious. I'm like, what in the world? But like, you really got to realize, you know, you can't make someone learn by yelling at them to an extent. You know, you'll have people at our school, and we do go to, you know, a Bible Belt school, and our school is predominantly white, and that is something that we accept, but we also can't just like stand around idly. You know, if something happens, like with Genesis, if she had one of her hallmates that were saying these things, like, you need to report it, because, you know, especially if it's in like ROTC or like really the people at our school are supposed to be leaders. And like, I don't want a leader in my future that doesn't support their neighbors, because that's not what our world is supposed to look like. And if we can do action now, like, we need to make a space comfortable for people to say something, because, you know, sometimes we think, oh man, their future is going to be at stake, and what if this happens? But it's like, no, people need to be held accountable for their actions, and they need to be held accountable now. And it doesn't matter their age, it doesn't matter what's going on. So, and then also, it's not enough to just say that you're not racist. You know, we've seen this on social media, like, you have to be anti-racist, and you can't just like repost things or whatever, but you need to be active, and with whatever resources that you have, and whether it's donating $10 to a fund that you believe in, or reaching out to people on Instagram and saying, hey, like, you know what, let's get lunch, let's talk about it. Because, you know, I got a lot of friends that grew up in Alabama, and they say the things they do because it's true. It's a nurture thing. And we're students, and professors also, we're constantly learning. And it's not a time to block people. It's a time to be like, you know what, you're saying these things, but you need to understand like every aspect of it. So for those people who are not POC and people who are not in the Black community, like, I challenge you to take the weight upon your shoulders. Like, that weight is ours to carry now, and you need to take up that duty. So in the little chat, I'm going to send a link for a document that has actually most of the resources where you can donate if you're protesting, things like that, national bailout funds, like anything, and share it with your neighbors, share it with your friends, share it on social media, like anything that you can do. And when we go to campus, when we go to school, it's the little things that really count. So yeah, thanks for everyone who showed up today. It was really awesome.
Hi, I know I've spoken before, but earlier And I don't know if you guys could see it. I was super nervous, especially being one of the first students to talk about this on an open platform where there's so many people to judge and critique. And I'm still nervous now because it's weird. And I don't mean that like in like it's a bad thing weird. It's just weird because a lot of the times when we talk about these things when it concerns racism, it's in our own communities. And anytime we try to reach out, we're usually dismissed. My freshman year at Riddle, before I even got there, we were trying to, I know a lot of students do this, they try to reach out to other students coming in, so you have a basis when you come in. There was this one guy. He was a white guy. He was talking to me, being friendly or whatever, and then he tried to turn the conversation sexual. I did not want that, and as soon as I told him no, he proceeded to call me the N-word and a monkey, like straight after, and I was like, and then also experiences at Riddle is I've been told that, I've been told by a lot of communities, not specifically white communities, I've been told that I'm not Black enough because of the things I do, the music I listen to, the way I dress, a lot of things that affect like a lot of Black people. And a lot of this is, I want people to understand that like living through a lot of the stuff that Black people live through in America, because I have 4 brothers. So that fear that I live with, that one of them will not come home, and my eldest brother is a firefighter, so like he's out and doing stuff all the time, but this simple fear that no matter what we have on our name, no matter if I become a doctor or even graduate, when I finish graduating, what my title is, what my major is, at the end of the day that won't matter because my skin color. And a lot of the times when people look at that, and my name, because it is not a traditional name, when people look at these things, all they see is my race. And I think that in America, a lot of people aren't educated on, or actually, I mean, around the world too, but a lot of times in America, people aren't educated on the specifics of racism, and that these prejudices that we face, they weren't created by us and they have nothing to do with us. Like a lot of the time that these prejudices happen or are against us aren't things that we did ourselves. Like the idea that we're violent just because we're Black, the idea that we are dangerous just because we're Black, the idea that we are poor or living off the system simply because we're Black is not okay. And being at Riddle, like I grew up in the South, so I've experienced racism. I've been refused service at a few restaurants simply because of the color of my skin, just from being in the South. And then going further into the South to go to Florida, my mom didn't like it, especially because she knew the stuff that happened down there. And it's hard, especially being Black on campus and being vocally Black on campus. Because my freshman year, I was very silent about basically my identity. I just kind of kept to myself, didn't really try to mesh with anybody. And then my sophomore year, I became president of the Black Student Association on campus. And that forced me to reach out to Black students and Black people in general and try to educate the masses of what it was to be Black in America and our experiences. And I think a lot of the teaching of the other people is very hard for us. Like because like we know it, we experience it every day, and to still be questioned on it, it hurts and it's traumatizing. It messes with us mentally, messes with us emotionally. It's especially traumatizing to see another Black person killed simply for being Black and being judged from the jump. You know, it's like it just hurts. And I wish that there was something that I could do to just make it go away like instantly. But I know it's a team effort, and it's gonna take a lot of us to work together with all races and creeds and fix this, because it's not okay. Especially since when I came to Riddle, that I wanted the race thing to be the last thing on my mind because I went through it enough in high school. I was shut off as that Black girl, and a lot of people didn't expect me to actually be intelligent or know things simply because of the color of my skin. And when they heard I was going to Embry-Riddle, they're like, "Oh, what do you do?" And when I told them I was an aerospace engineering major, they were like, "Wait, what? I thought you'd be in communications or business or literally anything else but engineering," simply because of the color of my skin. And that's not okay. And I'm going to send a link in the chat. And it's for those people, if you don't have money, if you can't go out to protest, it's a YouTube video that's about an hour long, and all the and it has a bunch of ads in it. So go through the ads. It has a bunch of ads, and all the ad revenue goes to all the Black funds, the bailout funds, the Black Lives Matter funds. I'm gonna send that in the group chat once I get it over to my computer. And so you guys can, if you can't give any money, you can still help by watching these videos on repeat or on silent. Thank you.
Thank you. Malia said she'd like to talk too. All right, go ahead.
Okay. And I'm very excited to be coming on campus because it's actually been my dream school since I was 13 years old. So I appreciate what's going on right now in the ERAU community, like just with George Floyd and all of this. I appreciate what you all are doing. So I took a sociology class with the dual enrollment program Embry-Riddle set up. And I remember on one of my discussion assignments, I talked about how race has to come into the picture with COVID-19 before the George Floyd stuff happened. And I remember this reply, I'm not gonna say that this person was racist, but he did ask, is it caused by the higher population density of their communities or due to the problems finding proper health care? And that set me off a little bit. So along the lines I replied, to answer your questions, the higher population density would not be an issue considering the US is predominantly white and the healthcare system seems to cater to white people more. And I just really don't like how, like, because of my skin color, I can't get proper health care, or I'm just arrested while I do nothing wrong. Although I haven't really faced discrimination yet, you know, I just like feel, I can't even put it into words right now, but I'm just, sometimes I ask myself, why do I have to worry about things happening to me just because of my skin color? Like, I don't even want to worry about race when I come to Embry-Riddle. Like, it's been my dream school. I didn't even, most of the time it has to come into conversation, like the discrimination I may face when I get there. I really don't want to face it. I believe that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing, but I hope you do know you have a lot of support here too. I haven't received any other messages or hand raises right now. But if there, I want to give everyone an opportunity to do so if you want to say anything else. All right. Go ahead, Amar.
Hello. Is my mic sounding okay?
You're a bit distant, but you're coming through clear.
Okay, because right now I'm just on my way up to New York City. Actually, I just left St. Paul a couple hours ago. And so, first, a little bit about me. I just graduated December 2019 with bachelor's in aeronautics, and I also have an associate in aviation maintenance. And first bit, when I get into my experience at Riddle, I would like to say happily that all of my classes that I took at Riddle with the professors and everything, they have just been amazing. I've never experienced any kind of like how do I say it? Like never really experienced any kind of like never any bad experience in terms of like race. I've always had a positive experience. I've always been able to make really good connections to the professors and stuff. And I still leave messages with my professors now, and I still talk to them all the time. But as on the student side of things, when I first got here, it was pretty difficult for me to like go about, you know, finding groups of people that I can mesh with and be myself. And so when I was finally able to do that, like it would be just like little experiences that you notice. Like it's not really people being barefaced racist. It's mostly just like little things. Like for example, I can be walking back from Einstein to Apollo, and there will be instances where people would just lock me out of Apollo because they think I look suspicious probably, and then they would hold me up at the door and ask for my ID, when obviously I just used my ID to enter the building. And it's not just like one instance. It's like a lot of things. It's like a lot of different times when that happens. And then you would notice people would just start walking faster in front of you. They would like look over their shoulder. It will be little things that make you feel some type of way about yourself. And then also, I don't know if you guys remember, because I've been at the school for 6 years. I've been here since 2013, so I'm kind of like a dinosaur. But I remember when that app Yik Yak was like, I don't know if it was new, but I was new to it. And it was basically a bunch of students commenting on a bunch of different stuff that was going on around campus anonymously. And a lot of the things that they would comment on, a lot of it were just like it was very disturbing as a black person reading all of that. And then it was just very disturbing, and it made you feel some type of way, like, you know, do I really want to still go to this school? Like I had, like 2 years in, I started to feel like I didn't want to go to Embry-Riddle anymore, and I kind of wanted to get out of Embry-Riddle. I wasn't liking, because even in Daytona Beach, it's kind of like it makes you feel some type of way being black, and so I was dealing with all of that and having to question if this is the environment that I want to be in. And so the reality of being black in America is just every day you see something on the news every day, and sometimes not even the news, because we don't really get as much coverage of things that are actually going on in the country. You mostly get most information from like Twitter or Instagram or Facebook of what's going on. And so it's every day, being black is every day waking up to something new, and you're just like, you don't know how to deal with it. It's like you're upset about it happening. You're not surprised. That's one of the things. You're just not surprised that it's happening. You're just shaking off like, oh, this is happening again. You know, some days like you can't even function because you can't even function because you're just dealing with knowing that, okay, this is happening again. It's my turn coming too. You start to feel that type of way. And so some days you try to find different ways to deal with it, but then some days you just tune it out and you want to, you know, you just want to be like, okay, well, something's going on. I won't look at it right now. I'll move on with my day. And then you come the next day, you just start to feel guilty about not trying to voice how you feel about this, because you just feel like guilty for not participating in the conversation that's going on. And so it's really hard. It's really hard because growing up, I knew from the get-go what my plans in life were, and I've always had the plan to get out of school because I didn't like school. So that kind of pushed me to do really well because I didn't want to be held back. I didn't want to have to repeat classes and stuff. I just wanted to move through the education part of my life as quickly as possible so that I can get to where I want to be. And so you plan, okay, so you want to have a family at this age, you want to have a successful career and whatnot. And then you don't realize that while you're pursuing your goals that you set, you have to dealing with all of these issues. It sets up roadblocks, and it affects you in a very deep way, like mentally. And it really affects everything. Like for me, my personal experience with racism and discrimination, which I have a ton of stories that are just, if I was to go on and on and on, we would be here all night. I'll probably get to New York and then still have more stories to tell you guys. But just having to deal with all of that, it affects your school. Like I said, I wanted to quit Embry-Riddle, knowing that Embry-Riddle, the opportunities that I want to have, I will get them through Embry-Riddle. And it just makes me question, like, if I wanted to be here, like, and then also my relationships, because I was so caught up on worrying about my safety and worrying about getting justice, worrying about not feeling like this way. It makes you, the anger that you feel, if you don't know how to process the feelings that you have, it just makes you angry and it makes you bitter, and like you don't realize that you take out a lot of what you're feeling on the people around you that care about you. And like I said, the point is that dealing with this kind of discrimination and dealing with this being black in America, it affects you in so many other ways more than just worry about your life. Because if I wasn't able to recognize what all of this was doing to me, I probably wouldn't even been able to graduate school. So one thing I gotta say is that there is so much different things. It's not just this, like Jamario mentioned, like this. It's not just this one instance of George. Like I've been dealing with since Trayvon Martin, and then every day is something different. I'm from New York City, where if you're on Facebook and you're from New York, you see this kind of stuff every day with police abusing their power and things like that, and it just stirs up so much anger. And so when Colin Kaepernick started this Black Lives Matter, when he kneeled as a form of protest, and then you see how the narrative is like changed as him disrespecting military service members and stuff like that, and you see, and it's like every instance where this happens, you can see that they always find something else to bring up. Like you can never just say, okay, well, I feel like my rights have been violated, and I just want to bring light to it. And then I just want to bring light to it. You never get that response as in, okay, well, we see where you're coming from. We see the issue. Let's work. Let's fix it. It's always something else. Like, oh, well, you're just respecting the flag. You're, like for instance, with the looting, the narrative changed from we want justice to Floyd to we don't appreciate the looting, and then looting is bad, and we never really get, our voices are never really heard. We try to bring it up so that America knows that this is a problem that we're facing, and it always changes into something else, and then it becomes a battle between disproving the looting and the disrespect to the flag. We have to go harder to try and disprove that instead of talking about why we feel this way. And so it always feels like what we're saying ends up deaf ears. And so right now I'm actually shocked that we actually that it's gone this far, because normally it would be a week of airtime, it would be like a week of social media posts, and then it would just like nobody wants to talk about it ever again until the next time. And then that also plays into like people thinking, oh, well, this one guy, well, the cops that did this are getting arrested. You guys should be happy now. But it's like, no, it's like more than that. It's like it's built up over time, and then my bad. It's built up over time, and like there's so much that we're dealing with, so that having justice for one person doesn't just because we got the justice that you guys thought that we wanted, it doesn't mean that everything that we're protesting and everything that we're speaking about is just solved. And so right now I'm just shocked that things like these forums where we're out here talking about our experiences and talking about what's going on is actually being set in the center of the stage. So I'm really happy that I'm shocked, but I'm really happy that we're actually getting the opportunity to talk about it. And if there's one thing that I want to say is that don't focus on what the opposition towards this is saying about it. Don't focus on the looting, because the looting's happening. Honestly, I'm not for the looting, because the looting is, we're also fighting against the looting. Like, we don't want the looting to happen either. We want to go out, we want to protest, we want to stand up, we want to speak on what's going on. But we're at the point where if you guys want to focus on the looting, we don't care. We're just gonna ignore it. We're not even gonna try to condemn it. We're just gonna stand up and be like, okay, well, do you understand why the looting's happening? Do you understand why we're out here? What led to this? It's like you're not looking at what caused it. You're looking at the effects of it, and you're condemning us for the effects of what's happening. But you're not looking at if you would give us if you would just listen to us and give us what we wanted and start the process of doing something different, then we wouldn't even be where we are right now. And so a lot of the information I've seen spread online, it's just been, it's like nobody's checking to see what's really going on. And right now, when I head up to New York, I'm honestly going to be out there protesting, because I want to see for myself what's going on. I don't want to be misinformed. I don't want to hear things like the cops are the ones that started the movement. Like the cops are the ones that are starting the violence and stuff. Because the people who are against the whole movement of Black Lives Matter are going to see that, and they're going to use that to justify why all lives matter, why blue lives matter. They're going to see that and justify that. So I don't want it to be like we're making this stuff up to make police look bad. I don't want it to be like we're making this stuff up to justify what's going on. I want to go out there and see for myself what's going on. And so question everything all the information that you get, even if it's for what you're doing. I see posts about things and I question it until I know for a certain that's what really happened. And it's not much like I look it up in 2 minutes time. That's it. It takes like an hour, 2 hours before I can confirm what's going on for real, before I even start to react to it, before I can get angry at it, before I can, speak about it. And so, yeah, my experiences as a Black American, it's just been, I can tell you it's been horrible. I wouldn't fault anyone for not understanding, because it's hard for us to even, some of the people who came on here, it's hard for us to even put in words what we're feeling. It's hard for us to even try to talk about it, because even talking about it to you guys feels like Jamari said, it feels weird, but like in a good way. It's like we don't even know how to talk. No, that's wrong. We're not used to talking to you guys, but we're not used to people hearing what we're saying and understanding what we're saying, and we're not used to seeing that kind of support from people. And that's, like I said, it's shocking to me that we're even still talking about this now. It's shocking to me that we had this opportunity to talk about it. And then also, I'm surprised that it got this bad, but honestly, I'm kind of not surprised at the same time because I've had enough personally. I know people who are able to process their emotions the way I can. I know their reaction to it is, I understand their reaction to it. And yeah, some of it is bad, but I understand why it's happening. Other people need to understand too. Like, imagine I have to go to therapy to process what's going on with me just because I'm black. And 'cause if I wasn't black, I would have been dealing with some of the situations that I've been. I've been held at gunpoint by the police. I've been pulled over multiple times for no reason. I've been searched. I've been a victim of stop and frisk in New York. It comes down to where I have a routine. Like, it's so normal for me where it's just routine now. Like, I know how to. It's like inconvenience to my day. Like, I can be on my way to do something, and it's just an inconvenience to me. To the point where I just know what I have to do. Right now, I'm just thinking, okay, let me just get this over with. Let me hope that things go as great as I can, and it doesn't go well every single time. Yeah, there are good cops out there that's just like, hey, have a good day. Let you go for the morning. That's it. You can have friendly conversations with them for like minutes on end, and then they let you go about your day. But then there are some people, some police officers that are just, they don't even say good afternoon or how are you doing. They don't even try to. They just come up to you yelling and ready to, I could have been dead. I can personally say, that in some instances, if I were supposed to act the way other people were to act, if I didn't think about what can happen to me, I probably would have ended up in the same situation. And then I've done what people tell you to do. Be polite. Have everything ready. Don't move any sudden movements. Like, the fact that I have to do all that just so I can guarantee my safety is like, it's unreal. And then people don't even realize it because even after whenever I have an experience like getting pulled over or a cop pulls me over to talk to me whenever I'm walking on the street, it's like whenever I'm out of that situation, like it's not until after that the cop is like, have a good day, carry on with what you're doing. It's not until after that experience that I start to shake, I start to tremble, I start to feel like crying, I start to feel angry. It's like, and then whenever you have the good experiences, you're like, it's like this huge sigh of relief that you didn't have to deal with one of the bad cops. And I can tell you, it's not a great experience. And, it's sad that it's happening. And people who I've told, people who don't know, like my white friends who don't know what's going on, they think I hate police. But it's not that I hate police, it's just that I hate the way when I have to deal with them, it's like I feel like there's so much extra things that I have to do. And then I'm not even sure if I'll make it out of there alive. Honestly, you feel like it's life and death. It's not whether or not the cop's gonna just give me a warning or give me a ticket. It's always, am I gonna walk away from this with a bad experience, worse than I've ever experienced before, or if I'm just gonna like, you just start. You're always on the extreme of it, like because like getting a ticket is like what you hope for. You hope that the cop just comes up and your ticket and then just sets you on your way. Because that's, for us, that's the best thing that can happen to us. The worst thing that can happen to us is that we die. And I've had nightmares. I've had dreams where I got pulled over and the cop emptied the whole clip in my chest. It messes with you. It messes with you mentally. And I know I'm probably going off rambling, but this, I think I'm gonna end it here because I can keep going about my different experiences that I've encountered and why I feel the way I feel and why the Black Lives Matter movement is so important to me. But one thing I like to say is that there are a lot of people. I see a lot of you guys want to like learn how to like know how we feel. The best thing to do is just to you have to constantly, and this is just with life, you have to constantly be learning about the past. Like, if you go back and you study American history, a lot of what American history is, then you start to understand, like, okay, well, all these different things happen to colored communities, Jim Crow, segregation, all these civil rights movements and stuff. If you go back and you learn about it, it doesn't matter what race you are. If you go back and you acknowledge that this stuff happened and that it happened, and that you can kind of like connect the dots and see where it's still happening now, because a lot of people they just don't seem to believe that it exists, and that's because they don't know much about the history, so they can't recognize when it's happening in front of them. And then because we can, that's why we're so outraged. That's why we feel the way we feel about it, because we see it happening again. It's like history repeating itself, and we just feel helpless. We don't know if it's gonna turn out great for us. We don't know if it's just gonna be another couple news cycles that is back to being normal, like the normal that people want, and then this is just gonna happen again, and then we have to deal with all this emotional stuff, all these emotions, all these feelings over again, and then I just hope that at this time around, that we're actually able to see something change and see something happening. And so yeah, just learn about what's going on, not from what people are saying. Learn on your own. We have so much access to information that we don't even need. We don't have to wait for somebody to post something on Twitter for us to be like, oh yeah, well, and then we can't even validate whether it's true or not. So I encourage people to just go on their own, do their own research, talk to people, because there are a lot of people like us who experience these kind of things that can tell you what's going on from a personal experience. And so that's pretty much it. What you can do. That's the best. That's the best first step. And I'm happy to see a lot of people advocating. I'm happy to see a lot of people actually saying something right now and doing stuff right now. And so there's still a lot to be done. Like, people say, oh well, you still need to vote. You still need to go write your mayors, write your congressmen, write your state representatives. There's a lot of stuff that can be done that a lot of people don't know about. But just the fact that the people who do know how to make a change are now tuning in and listening, and they're also outraged and upset about this as well. That I feel like, and I really hope that something is done this time to like really push it to a point where we're actually not just trying to be normal, we're trying to be different. And one thing I was telling one of my friends is that Martin Luther King Jr. he started it, and yeah, he's done a lot for civil rights, and he's paved the way for us to be where we are right now. But I feel like we've gotten too comfortable, and we haven't continued it. We've thought like, okay, we're in a great place now.
Don't mean to cut you off, Armor, but can you draw your remarks to a close? Because I do want to we got some resource here we want to highlight for folks, and if you draw some things for a close, that'd probably be good.
Yeah, that's okay. Then I'll leave it there then. But yeah, just educate yourself on what's going on, and if you see something that you don't think is like right, don't be afraid to stand up for it, even if it's not so popular. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me. And thank you for giving me the chance to speak tonight. Thank you guys for listening.
Thank you, Omar. You and everybody else who's spoken deserves to be heard, and I apologize for cutting you off, but also recognize them.
I have a tendency to ramble off. I can go off for hours. That's just one of my traits.
And thank you for sharing that. I think lots of folks have been sharing. I just got a couple requests for folks, and I'm going to close with prayer. One is just to scroll through your screen a little bit, just to see all the names and faces of folks. reconnect on that very human level. Zoom is not the most human environment, but it's better than a lot of things. And just see the faces as you kind of scroll through people or see the name. Just remember some of the things that were said, the invitations that were given, willingness for folks to want to listen, to learn, try to do things better. Grateful that we have President Butler and Dean Kohler here with us tonight, as well as SGA President Jim Myers, folks I know care very deeply about this, and Aaron Clevenger, who's also leading up the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Office. Lots of good folks, and to want to continue this work, and Bill Thompson with their alumni, and sort of a wide sense of things. So want to thank, just to look and see the names, see the folks who are here, and recognize that we got a lot to do and a lot to work on. We do have the record of the resources and the links that you have, and we can make those available for you. The various things that people have been contributing in the links, and do want to let folks know about that. Also on Tuesday, 5 to 6:30 p.m. for students, a chance to continue the conversation. I realized it was a hard discussion for a number of students tonight, and it was very difficult, and I really want to respect that. At the same time, you know, as someone who does need to be educated and does need to be transformed and renewed, it's helpful for me. So I want to say thank you personally for that, and I want to encourage everyone to continue the conversation as you feel comfortable and as you feel led. So it's Tuesday at 5 to 6:30 p.m. I think the same link that brought you here would bring you to that as well.
It's a different link.
Oh, it's a different link. So the same announcement should have that link though.
Yes.
And you see that Jamari's got an email, an offer there in the chat box. If anyone wants to talk, feel free to email her. So thank you, Jamari. I appreciate that. And thanks for everyone being willing to do that. I'm going to close, if it's all right with folks, I'm going to close with prayer. I'm going to do two aspects to it. As many of you know, I try to be as interfaith as possible, recognize there's a wide variety of backgrounds and traditions present. And so often conclude with, let all God's children say, and invite us all to say amen with that. And I do that intentionally. We are all God's children, and that's a message that I hope we all can absorb over time, and to live into what that means, to realize we're all children, at least, you know, to those who have a sense of a faith tradition, we're all children of the same God. But I'm going to begin the tradition prayer in my tradition, if that's all right with folks. I think it's appropriate, and I think you'll see as I do that. So let's be together in prayer, and let us appreciate who we are together. Let's pray together. Gracious and loving God, you are no stranger to violence. You are no stranger to suffering or pain or even death. Indeed, you suffered death at the hands of those who are in authority, a cruel, violent, brutal death. And you did so that we might have life, we might have new hope with you and with one another. So we thank you, dear God, for your willingness to enter into our pain. And we pray to you and gather in hope and confidence. And God, you're also a God of justice and a God of repentance, a God who wants what is right and just and fair, but who calls us to repentance and to new life. To God, we pray that our country will repent, will get its act together. We will pursue justice. We will follow you. We will follow the love that you have for all. And God, as we pray, we also pray for the deliverance of your people, those who are choked by the knee on the neck, and all those who suffer and are oppressed. So God, we pray this. We thank you for this time that we have. We thank you for all those who've had the courage to speak, all those who've had the courage to listen. We thank you and we ask you to bless us this evening. And may all God's children say, amen. Amen. Thank you all very much. I really appreciate this. This has been very powerful. I'm very grateful. Again, we'll make the resources available to folks, the links that you've provided. And you can see sort of the emails, and people are putting their emails in there, and there's a willingness to continue the conversation. So even as I draw us to a close, I also say, let's take the next step. So thank you, and blessing to everyone. Good night.